Now, I'm going to take you through all the intercooler thing because that's what's got to be done kind of first, because we've got to get all of that off and one thing or another. And that's kind of where we're going to go next, right? And hopefully when we take all this off, and I've got some footage, albeit sped up and time-lapse and everything else, which I might do a voiceover of. You might guess it. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I've never done it before. It might be utter garbage. Who knows? Nobody's watching this anyway, you know. So we can do what we want, can't we? Anyway, let's have a crack.
Nothing left worth fighting for, so I turn the other way. And then I see that I was happier and happier and happier that way. As I fall away to find a brighter day, to keep away from me right now. As I turn and shout, I'm holding my hands out, so keep away from me right now. Turn to face you now, turn to face you then. All the while I see you're only living for yourself. Maybe you'll wake up, maybe you'll stay blind, living in your little world where only you exist. And as I fall away to find a brighter day, so keep away from me right now. As I turn and shout, I'm holding my hands out, so keep away from me right now.
So that escalated. Last night I decided I was gonna just have a quiet night, stick the music on and potter away and put a few bits back and one thing or another. Next thing I know, I've cracked out your welder and that's happening. It is not bad. The welds are at least as good as what was on there, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Some of it does need a bit of tidying up. I kind of made it up as I went along, but it's all welded, pinned, and it's all been, I've done some nice bits there, and this is also, I've reinforced this here around the towing eye, so that's all. I'm quite happy that the material that we've taken away, which wasn't up to a lot, to be honest with you, is I don't think this thing is meant to. I think what it's meant to do is transfer the forces into the legs, so it crushes the car as opposed to pushing the engine back in. Anyway, I think that's how it works, and it should now continue to do that, because that should transfer all of the force into, you know, it should carry on as intended. I've sized up the intercooler and the new one, and I've had a good think about it, and we've tried making a bit of room there, and we've tried playing around with this and all that jazz, and I don't think we're going to get a lot out of it. Even if we move, because that's about as far back as that can go. As it stands at the moment, the intercooler is and that is in the middle, believe it or not. It's just that the radiator's offset. This intercooler here, as it comes there, fits in there lovely, and that raises it up, puts the pipes in the right place there. However, unfortunately, And I'll when I bought this was supposed to have had 2.5-inch inlets, so they were roughly the same, a little bit bigger. The same size as that one. They're not. They are, well, put it this way, that's a 70mm pipe on there. So whilst obviously that makes for a better intercooler, unfortunately the problem is still the same. We've still got, where's the middle? We've still got this issue here, and you can see what's happening with the pipes there. Now I can bring those about by here, but they're still going to stick out that much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mock that up by hanging that through there. I hadn't thought about mounting this yet, but here's the thing: if this doesn't fit hung there like that, then there is really only one option, and I'm slowly coming to terms with the fact that we might lose the AC. There is another issue around this. The laws of physics would dictate that if that intercooler is in front of the condenser, then it's warming the air up that's going through the condenser. Therefore, let's just say the condenser is not going to be able to work as effectively. Now, in some cases, it might be fine, because the condenser will work in a lot of circumstances. Unless it's really, 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 really hot, there's no airflow, then it might struggle. However, I don't think that's the case with this. I think that the whole cooling thing is suffering because that's in the middle, and that isn't a vital thing, whereas the other two are. And whilst I really desperately did not want to lose the AC, I don't honestly think it's possible, not just from a fitment point of view, but from a physics point of view. There are obviously other solutions. There are different intercoolers that we could, you know, there's custom intercoolers that could be made, because what I really want is one that's that much deeper and that much, you know, bring it in a bit, and it would be beautiful. But what can you say? We got what we got. We can't take, you know, we can't do a lot. And again, we're in a position where we got to move these things on, you know. I've measured, I've taken photos, I've looked at other people's work, I've looked at custom work, all manner of things. And I don't want to spend 1,200 quid on having a custom one made. It's not, you know, I could weld different pipes to give me more clearance, you know. It's just, and it didn't help that was supposed to be, and don't get me wrong, that those end tanks are supposed to have had narrower inlets on them, and that's what it's. And I've looked and I've checked and I've gone, yeah, I did order, because I was planning on using the same reducers. Yeah, they're a good 10-12 mil wider than the other ones, and obviously from an intercooler perspective, better. Although the pipe's only 51 mil, so a lot of the Abarth guys, with 500s, they make custom ERW tube crash bars to reduce the, you know, and to increase the airflow. And great. I can honestly say that I built this myself. Well, I did. I cut, you know, we used steel stock. I went and bought some steel to go into it, which is also kind of ironic as well. And if you know, you know. I had to knock it in the head last night because I think for the first time in God knows how long, I had to charge my only M18 battery up. Yeah, I did get my money's worth out of that one. So we can go a bit higher than that. Okay. So we can come in a bit there, but we're not going to go much further. Right. And these will end about there. But we'll leave those there for now to see what happens. I spent the last day mentally preparing myself for removing the aircon. And there's a few advantages to that, as I mentioned about the well, look at this physics of it all. I might end up doing that anyway, but we've still got space there, see, and drop it. I reckon if we push that back a little bit and drop it, how are we going to push this back? Got a yeah, one of them on it.
So we haven't actually tested the intercooler. We haven't given it a good run through, seen how it sounds, see how it performs. Now normally we would contract this out to the independent laboratory, just like we did with the last one. However, I wasn't too impressed with how that worked out, in terms of the fact that, yeah, we're here now replacing the intercooler. So I think we might give those guys a miss on this one. We might go back to them at some point in the future, but I think that we should test this in-house. I think this is going to have a lot more sustain. I think it's going to have a lot more going for it. It should perform quite similar in terms of tone but I think that it's going to have a lot more sort of vibrato and sustain. So let's just wind this up here and see how this looks. You know, let's give it a crack. Well, that worked a bloody treat. I'm happy with that.
As a roundup, as a sort of, you know, we've now got, that looks a bit wonky, but trust me, it's not. So we've now got this all in place. This is, I've fabricated that. I'm quite pleased with the way that's turned out. Although the paint job could have been a bit better. And that is, so that material we've replaced with a secondary sort of, you know, so I don't think we've compromised anything on that. And that is, you know, actually I've reinforced in and around there as well, so that's it's all solid. It's really solid actually, and I'm quite pleased with the way it's turned out. This is another little sort of this was a eBay specialist, a clone of a Mishimoto expansion tank, I suppose, although I don't think I'd want to use it as an expansion tank, not this version anyway. It was quite, as you can see, we've got quite an interesting sort of thing going on there, because I tried relocating this up there. That didn't work because these things have got to be primed, so they always need to be in the water effectively, which is useful. So what I've done is these are now this is, I used the fittings, these are AN fittings. I used the fittings that we had with it, tap that out, plug that up, create a plug there because I only had 3 plugs with it, and AN plugs, wow. One plug had cost more than this entire canister cost. I think this canister was like £17, and it came with that, and that was supposed to be a level indicator, but I put that one on the bottom there, so that's always below that water level there, so for as long as that water level's there, that's always primed. And this is, as you can see, attached to another one, which is there, which might look a bit Heath Robinson, a bit pikey, a bit whatever you want to call it, but this works, and it works really well. And the other thing is that is an air intake, which will come up through here. Now the headlight comes to about there, but previously this whole this year would have been blocked. It would have been restricted, so everything would have been, so there would have been no air able to get up through there, because that thing came up by here and it blocked the whole thing. Now you've got space, and it's not exactly, you know, aerodynamic, but it's the amount of airflow that we're going to get through there is significantly larger, because you can probably just see where the intake is up there. And yes, the headlamp does come, you know, but we'll have 30-40 mil of space per there where we didn't have anything before. It's going to be significantly better. So yeah, the intercooler, we've altered a few bits and pieces. We've changed some piping and changed some diameter. I've shrunk this a little bit, and we've welded a new one of these up, which means I need to put some paint on her. We've welded a new one of them up, moved that out. So this is now, yeah, and you could get a Rizzler down there between that thing and that intercooler, the condenser and the pipe. In fact, I'd show you if I had any, but I don't. So yeah, and that's probably about as well as it's going to get. And this is obviously, so yeah, there's a whole thing going on there. So that's, I'm happy with it so far. What we've got is, and I've as you can see, we've got a little bit of work to do with the plate mountings, which I've got to get some of these new. I'm gonna order some new of these nut things to go in, because they're all knackered and rusty. I did try and repair them, but yeah, and we've got to move, because we've had to change, and you know, and this is close. It's very, very, very close. But I've got to the stage now where it will fit. We can bolt the bumper up without any issue, and I would show you that, but right now I've got a load of other stuff that I need to finish. Have we plugged all that in? Oh no, right, that's gotta, because we've got to get as much of this wiring up and out of the way as possible, because it needs to be, we need to get the headlamps back in it as well. But before we do any of that, before we do a lot of, there's dust everywhere in here, before we do any of that, before we do a lot of that, there is something else that we've got to deal with, and that is,
It's alright, that.